Welcome back to this series of conversations at the Dark Reading News Desk at RSA. Terry Sweeney with Dark Reading, and joining us now is TK Keanini, Vice President of Security Architecture and CTO for Cisco Secure. Joining him is Tomás Maldonado, CISO for the National Football League. Gentlemen, thanks for doing the news desk today.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
It's no secret that business success depends on secure, connected experiences. Cisco has declared security resilience is more important than ever. TK, get us started by telling us a bit about your particular perspective on security resilience and how businesses can best protect themselves.
Yeah, you know, the concept is, it means something different to everybody,
Sure.
Depending on what your scale and size is. But the objective, I think, is pretty well known. It's well known in finance. A business has financial resilience. We're just trying to get the conversation about cyber and security to that same level, and really just try and deliver to that objective. Now, that objective, like I said, is it's kind of like diet. Like I can share with you my stories,
Sure,
but it's going to render differently for different organizations.
Right.
But Cisco's definitely there to be a partner and help you achieve your security resilience.
Resilience also suggests it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Definitely, and it is essentially, like I said, for everyone, small or large. It's the ability to withstand unpredictable threat and change, and to come back stronger.
Great. Tell us a bit more about the different dimensions of security resilience and what it can offer organizations.
I just think that it's really important that it touch every aspect of the business. And these days, it's not just you. It's also your partners. It's your customers. I mean, threat actors are going after every nook and cranny. So I think the function of and the goal of security resilience really needs to be end-to-end across your business. And frankly, for some of those people, that means they're remote workers, they're partners. It also may be things like public cloud. So again, the measurement can't be spotty, frankly.
Sure.
I mean, your financial resilience isn't. So why should your cyber
Exactly.
be spotty? Yeah.
Tomás, I'd like to pull you into the conversation. Earlier this year, Cisco and the NFL joined forces to protect and support a tiny little party called Super Bowl 56.
Yeah, really small. Never
yeah.
heard of that before.
Tell us a bit, if you would, about how the relationship between Cisco and the NFL got started and how it evolved into the partnership that it is today.
Well, so I'll say, I think it got started by way of, it started more as a conversation around what are we actually trying to accomplish with securing our big tentpole events. So Super Bowl being one of the big ones. And it was conceptual, it was really a conceptual conversation around we need to do more to get better visibility around what type of threats are we seeing. We need to be able to build upon our resilience, right? Because lack of resilience is a bad day for me.
Sure.
From not only from a cyber perspective, but if there's an impact from a physical or health and safety, if you will. So really that genesis around after starting at the NFL, December 2019, and in December 2019 with the upcoming Super Bowl in Miami, I had never worked in the sports and entertainment industry before. And so having to learn really fast and drinking from the fire hose, I realized that I needed more. And that more was more transparency and visibility into what types of threats we're actually seeing within the operating technology of the stadium. I needed to work with a partner that can understand the scale and the gravity of the situation, if you will, and then be able to complement and be adaptable and amendable for what we're trying to actually implement as we go from big tentpole event to big tentpole event. So it was I'm not gonna say it was a instant decision to partner with Cisco, but as we worked through our standard process of RFPs and whatnot, we built a relationship. They understood and heard what we were actually trying to accomplish, and we were able to come up with a design that actually made sense for us.
Well, speak a little bit more to that, if you would, about how you and Cisco work together with on the design, implementation, the operation of this end-to-end security for this large flash network that was basically appeared not overnight, of course, but I imagine it came together relatively quickly.
It took a bit of time in that it takes us, I'll say, a year worth of planning and effort to plan out where the Super Bowl is, right? So you might get on your calendar where the game will be played, and by the time you get where the game will be played, we're already working through that sort of design, how we're going to lay out IT within the stadium, what kind of partners need and connectivity requirements they will require as they provide services for the NFL and provide services to be able to see the game. And so while we're working with our business partners within the NFL and figuring out what are the business initiatives, what are the activations that will occur, we're also working along the lines of doing security design and figuring out, all right, what do we actually need to protect? And I say that because you might automatically think, well, you're protecting the stadium and the game. Well, I'm protecting the stadium, the game, where the players sleep, their hotels. I'm worried about where the league office sleeps. I'm worried about the other sort of locations that we have, so different activation points where fans might come and have an experience. So all of those components, if we're overlaying that with an IT network that is NFL related, then we're providing some level of service to protect those networks in addition to the actual game. So the game starts for me usually a year in advance.
Okay.
And then as we get closer to the game, it's that pre-week. So that pre-week of all of those different activations that the NFL has that we end up focusing on. And then as we get into the game, we're really focused on the quality of the game and the resilience of the game, and not letting any cyber-specific incident impact the output on the field.
Talk a bit about that discovery process that allowed you to better understand, prioritize, and protect against attacks or other issues that might arise with the network that supported the operations and fans and the teams and the administration.
Yeah, so fundamentals, right? Being able to take an inventory, and if you don't have the ability to take an inventory, which a lot of us, the NFL, when we put on the event, it's hard to take an inventory of everything that will be connected. We need to have tools and technology that can be able to profile the network and get that sort of telemetry data to give us more insight into that. And so we partnered with Cisco to deploy technology, and I'll let sort of TK talk a little bit more about the specifics on that, but we partner with Cisco to really allow us to get that telemetry data so that we can then start to make smart decisions around and use intelligence to make smart decisions around what's actually connected into our environment and what are those communications, are they valid or not valid. So we baseline the environment initially, and then we start to do, I'll call it standard blocking and tackling to use a football reference. But there's some components in which I'm being a little bit hesitant in sharing, Terry, to be honest with you, because I have a few more Super Bowls that I need to put on. So there's some components that I won't share, but we try to reduce the footprint or vector of attack by making very specific design choices around how individuals will connect into our environment and who's allowed to connect into our environment. And our environment being the network that we've implemented to provide services. And then we also work with the stadium to understand their network and figure out how to secure that. So I don't want to share too much, Terry. I know you want to
well,
know.
no, there's some secret sauce. I understand you have to.
I have a few more Super Bowls that I need to secure. If I give you too much, but I'll let TK add a little bit if he wants.
I think you pointed out you can't really be successful in networking without also being successful in security. I mean, frankly, they go hand in hand.
That's very true.
It's really not about getting a packet from A to B. It's making sure that person has the best experience they can and the safest experience they can. The asymmetry is that you want to make sure that it is really that community that you're serving and no one else. Meaning you want to make it incredibly usable for the people that are in a part of that event, and for everyone else on the globe, it is unusable. I just want to point that out because people talk about usability. It's a
good distinction.
Yeah, but there's a very asynchronous pattern here.
Tomás, take us out with lessons learned from the Super Bowl experience that could be applied to, say, events like the NFL draft in April. what happened that at the Super Bowl that made the NFL Draft Network more secure, more robust?
Well, the NFL Draft is an interesting experience, and one of the events that we put on that is actually more complicated for us from a cyber standpoint than the actual Super Bowl. And the reason I say that is because the adversary has 3 days to try to attack us with the NFL Draft, because the draft is 3 days.
Okay.
Where versus the Super Bowl, you really just have maybe 6-7 hours of when the game is actually being played. So the adversary might try different types of tactics and techniques, and we will deter them, and they might not be successful. And once the game is over, we tear that environment down and we move to the next state and the next stadium. So it's hard to sort of to compare it in that sort of in that context, because the adversary for the draft has a lot more time to try to launch an attack. But what I will say is, design-wise, what we've learned in doing the Super Bowl is, again, a lot of it comes back to fundamentals, understanding what is it that we're actually protecting and what are the potential vectors for an adversary to make their way in. Some of the specific networking security elements that we put in place at the Super Bowl, we actually can't put in place in the draft. And I'll give you an example. Right? There's a lot more openness in the draft, in that there's more connections that need to come into our environment on the NFL side, as well as on the really on the NFL side, not at the actual location where we're putting on the draft, but we do have a network that we stand up there. But we would block a lot of those connections, if you will, when we were thinking about Super Bowl. On draft, you can't, right? Because some of the clubs need to connect in. They actually have to make transactions, just like you would make a business transaction. They're making picks. They're submitting picks. So there's that bit of a nuance where it's a lot more challenging to really secure the draft. And if I had to pick one or the other, I'd pick securing the Super Bowl over securing the draft, just because of that duration of time that we actually are protecting against adversaries.
TK, anything to add there?
No, I'm good. I mean, again, I would say, we heard about the NFL, and that's awesome. I mean, I'm a huge fan of that. We want to make sure everyone's secure. I mean, our goal is, from the mom and pops all the way to the NFL, because everybody's a target these days.
Sure.
And everybody is so darn connected. So I would say, you be you, and Cisco's job is to be a partner in making sure that you can be you securely.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for a great conversation around security, sports, and of course, resilience. Thanks for doing the Dark Reading News Desk today.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
We've been talking with TK Keanini of Cisco and Tomás Maldonado of the National Football League. This has been Terry Sweeney for Dark Reading News Desk here at RSA. Thanks for joining us for this conversation. We'll see you next time.